Or if any of you are on that did not meet me last week, my name is Liz Giesland. I'm a personal chef, was a professional host trainer for 35 years. Prior to that, I've been a personal chef now for 18 years. And I've known Wendy a good 17 of those 18 years. So anyway, I want to get started because I might actually, if I have time today, be able to do a third surprise recipe. But we're going to do the recipes that Wendy should have given you the recipes for. And we're going to start with the shrimp and roasted red pepper cream today. So first I want to start with an idea that actually I learned from Rachel Ray some probably 20 years ago when I was first actually cooking for myself and modifying recipes before I started my chef business. And she uses this technique that she calls the garbage bowl. Now, where you can line, now I line mine with, I recycle these plastic bags, but you don't have to if you don't use plastic bags, just use it in a regular bowl. But it's a way for you, instead of dipping down into the garbage can, that when you're, prepping things, that you've got an easy place to put stuff. And I actually use two bowls at times because I'll have one for recycled things like glass jar that you'll see what I'm going to do here. But this way, I'm going to do this as if I wasn't near my sink so you can see how I'm going to put this together. So we're going to put together the ingredients for the shrimp and roasted red pepper cream. So I'm using a 12-ounce jar. In the recipe, I say you can use a 12 or a 16 ounce. And the 12, I'm going to be honest, these were on sale. So I got the 12-ounce jar. And this is Mount Olive brand. It's perfect. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a colander. And I'm going to do this right into the garbage bowl. Okay, and I'm going to just drain these really well. And I'm going to put the glass jar in my recycle. So what I'm going to do with these is just shake them out good. And they're basically like, it's about almost 2 full peppers in here. And then I'm going to put them into, I love this. I use this so much. This is a 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup. And you'll see, I mean, it's just a little workhorse for these kind of things. So I'm going to go ahead and put my red peppers in there. And then I'm going to get my block of cream cheese. Now I use the third less fat. Please don't use fat-free. It's not good. Use either full fat or the Nufishel, which is third less fat. And then I'm just going to open this up and put that in there. And you're going to get to see me use one of those tools that we learned about last week. So we go ahead and put this in here. Okay. Now I'm going to use my spatula and get every bit of this cream cheese off of here. Okay. Hands are clean. Okay, so this is going into the garbage bowl. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my hands off, my fingers. Now in the recipe, it's interesting, when I first started making this dish, I think even Mount Olive had the roasted red peppers like that, actually in olive oil and actually with a couple cloves of garlic in there. So basically, I just drained that, put that in, didn't have to obviously add any olive oil. The garlic was already in there. So now what I'm basically doing is I'm just going to put in, and this is, I need to find, this is another one of my favorite tools. This is an olive oil dispenser. And if you just, I've counted, if I count to 10, that's like 1 tablespoon. Well, I'm just going to not even give a full tablespoon. I'm just going to drizzle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you know what? If you forget to put this in, it's no big deal, but it does kind of make it a little bit creamier. So then I'm going to add, I had a chicken bone broth already opened. You can use regular chicken broth, or you can use, I like that better than bouillon for your, for bouillon instead of the cubes. And if you want, you can take a little teaspoon of that and then put that in with a quarter of a cup of water. I'm just going to go ahead and use this. And because I've done this so much, I don't actually need to measure. So I'm putting that in. Now, here's what you can use for another version of this. And I'm telling you, if you like spicy food, this is really good. Use the same thing that I'm going to blend here, but add a can of these chipotles in adobo sauce. And then instead of basil, use cilantro. in your, when we add the herbs, okay? But this, I have a client that I can't make things too spicy for him. And this is really yummy, really yummy. Kind of that smoky, because they're basically roasted jalapeno peppers in this kind of roasted like sauce. So, okay, so I'm gonna go use you're gonna have to pardon the noise. And I think you guys can still see me, but I'm using the immersion blender, okay? It's gonna make a little bit of noise, but I'm just gonna go in here and you'll see it in just a minute. This is gonna be all creamy. Okay, sorry for the noise, you guys. Okay, so it's gonna need a little bit more, just a second, but I mean, it's basically all creamy. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use garlic powder because I have it and I didn't have any fresh garlic. The garlic powder works great. And obviously use as much or as little if you like. If you don't like garlic powder, don't add it. Now the cayenne pepper, the recipe calls for half a teaspoon, and that really gives it kind of a nice little heat, not a lot. I know the client that I'm making this for today, they like it spicier. So I'm basically going to add a full teaspoon. Okay. And then I'm using original recipe called for fresh basil. And fresh basil is lovely, especially if you want to chiffonade and then put it in at the end. The dried basil works brilliantly. So, and I have obviously this on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and add a good tablespoon or more to this.
Liz, we have a question.
Yeah.
Can we use fresh red peppers?
I don't think that it would be the same. I think if you wanted to use the fresh and then roast them, if you want to take the time to do that, I think that it would be too watery and also not impart kind of that roasted flavor. It's a good question. I've never thought of that. I don't know that it would blend the way that the roasted red peppers are because they're kind of a soft texture. So I think if you roasted your own, absolutely, but I don't know that it would really work from a fresh standpoint.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then can you use green chilies instead of the chipotle?
Absolutely. This is what I try to tell people is just use the recipe as a suggestion and then just make it your own. Go, oh, well, and quite honestly, I've come up with some recipes that it's because I thought I had something in my pantry that didn't. I thought, well, I'll just try this. And it's like, well, that's brilliant. I'm going to do that again. So just anything that use things that you like and experiment. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead now and give this another little whiz. I'm going to get my stove, my pan hot. So Ashley, are any of our guests actually cooking today, or are they just observing?
Sure. I think it's too early for some of us.
Well, I know that's what Wendy and I were saying. And here's another thing that I do, you guys, is because I need to taste things, is I usually keep a little, of course, you guys don't have to do that in your own house, but I keep a selection of ready to go spoons on hand so I can taste it to make sure it's spicy enough and everything. And that's another thing that my clients, or I've had people ask me, well, Liz, you cook all the time. How do you cook all the time and not get fat? And I said, you know what? I said, here's the thing: is I have to be hungry enough that I want to taste the food, but not so hungry that I'm going to sit down and go, God, this is so good. I think I'll eat a whole portion. So I think in having things like, I'm going to taste it. It's perfect. Yep. And here's what I do too. When I'm cutting up fresh vegetables, I always have a little extra, or like when I cut my bell peppers and I cut off the top, I'll cut the pieces around the top and I'll snack on those if I feel like I need like a little snack, and then you're eating something that's really pretty guilt-free. So, okay, so I've got this getting warm, and then what I'm going to do is let this start to get warm. Just put this in your pan. You don't need to put any oil in, and we're just going to let that get up to a simmer. And then I'm going to talk to you about the shrimp here. So for some of you guys, if you're not sure, shrimp is sized by how many shrimp per pound. So when you see on a label 3140, that means there's 31 to 40 shrimp per pound. And so that's a nice medium large size, and that's what I'm using today. And when I portion for my clients, for this particular client, I'm giving them 10 of those shrimp as a serving. Okay. This sauce, to be honest with you, actually it's going to make 6. You can really almost get 8 servings with that amount of sauce. You'll see when I don't know, we'll see about portioning it up, but you'll see that there's really plenty of sauce. So what I did with the shrimp is yesterday, I thawed the shrimp, and these were actually on sale at Kroger. They're already peeled, deveined, and the tails off and everything. You get my shrimp at Costco, and the raw shrimp I get still has the tails on. So after it's thawed, I got to pull the tails. This, I didn't have to do any of that. So I thawed it, and then this morning what I did is I took it out of the bowl. It was all thawed, but I put it on a thing, and then with a paper towel, I want to kind of dry it a little bit. It doesn't have to be dry, but it's going to still have like moisture in it after being thawed. And this way, you don't want the water to kind of dilute your sauce. So, kind of pat your shrimp dry. Now, see, this is getting up to a good little simmer here. And I'm just going to go ahead and pop these shrimp in here. Pop it on in. So there's basically, I'm making 6 servings with 10 shrimp. So those were about 60 shrimp right there. Okay, so here's that. Okay, so I'm just going to have this just kind of on a medium simmer. You don't want it to be going wild. And you're just going to cook this just until those shrimp are cooked. So it's only going to take a couple of minutes here. So what I'm going to do while these, because I don't have to really watch these super carefully, I'm going to let these do their thing. Got it on medium low. I'll turn around and watch it, but I thought I might as well go ahead while this is working. And I'm going to get started on prepping for our next recipe while those are doing their thing. This would be like if I was regularly cooking, this is what I would be doing. So the next recipe is the orzo with mushrooms, asparagus, and sun-dried tomatoes. And you guys, this side dish is fabulous, but works great as a base for a main dish. In fact, I'm actually going to make this today, and then I bought some additional shrimp, but I'm just going to skill it with some seasoning, just saute real quick, and then I'm going to portion that in with this orzo dish. So it makes a beautiful main dish too. And you can do it with julienne chicken. You can do it with any kind of meat of your choice if you want to do that. Okay, so this is going along nicely, guys. But you can see how easy that is. It's a blender. Now, here's another thing that you can do. Quite often, I'll make this sauce. I'll double the recipe, and then I'll freeze the sauce. And then I've got it in my freezer. It's like, oh, I can make that shrimp and roasted red pepper cream. Thaw the sauce, put in the thing, put in your shrimp, boom, dinner. And this, I tell you, you know how there's some dishes that are so good, we call them company worthy, and I think this is a company worthy dish. If you know that your guests like shrimp,
yeah.
this
So
is
there was the Salesforce, one of the Salesforce roles, and David he actually updated it on Friday. I just need to retest it. So it failed to create the knowledge user in the Service Cloud, or I'm sorry, it failed to enable those attributes. The user did get created.
Was that a question, Ashley?
No, sorry about that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're watching this. It's just going to need another minute. I'm just kind of stirring it around. But you can kind of see. I mean, you can see there's a lot of sauce in there. I could easily have another, 2 servings worth of shrimp in there. I mean, it would be plenty. And also, it depends on how much sauce people like. I'm going to put this on top of that Barilla pasta that I recommended last week, the Protein Plus. Love it. And see, I've already got that cooked. I cooked that yesterday. So I'll portion that into the container, nestle the shrimp on top with the sauce. Okay, Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is talk about the next dish while that's cooking. So the next dish, okay, I'm gonna use, you have your options for your sun-dried dried tomatoes. I love these in the jar from Trader Joe's. And they have them at the regular grocery store too. Trader Joe's price is actually better. I've used about half a jar before, so I'll probably use almost all that's in here. Again, use as much or as little as you want. The recipe is a guideline. But you can also use these too. These are julienne, and if you don't have the julienne and you get them whole, just julienne them, just cut them up in slivers yourself. So this is one of the ingredients that you're going to use. Then the asparagus, I'm going to get ready to cut that up. And then I wanted to talk about mushrooms. I really prefer the creminis, but and sometimes, boy, I'll go to the store and I think, God, what's the deal with the mushrooms? They all look terrible. But, the white buttons are great, but the creminis are really nice. And always, it is an extra step, but don't buy the pre-sliced ones. Buy the whole ones. What's amazing is you really, I don't know, it's the same weight, but for some reason, even with cutting off the stems, the volume is much more as far as amount. I don't know, because you think the weight is the weight, but they're just better than the ones that are already sliced. I mean, you still have to pick through those. It's not worth it. Get them whole, take that step. Okay, so I think my shrimp is ready, guys. It is perfect. So I'm going to turn that off. But see, this would be ready. Okay, dinner's ready. You have your pasta ready, then you're ready to go. I'm going to take this over and put it on a wire rack so it can cool while we get going on the second dish. And then I'm going to portion this. And again, if we've got time, I'll even show you how I do that for my clients in the containers. So, okay, so that's going to go sit over here. So I thought since it's a cooking class, we'll actually talk about.
We have a quick question on the shrimp. Christine says, I noticed the vein on the outer part is gone. A lot of times there's still the vein on the inside. Do you typically just leave that there, or do you
I don't do anything with with the inside. I've never have. And it's not, the big vein, the one on the outside, but I know what you're saying, but I don't know, to tell you the truth, when you take that out, if it's really just exactly like that big outside vein. Is that Christine that asked that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? The other thing is too, if that is something that you're concerned about, you can also with the shrimp, and I do this for another dish I make called skillet shrimp orzo, so happens to be it's with orzo, and I actually cut the shrimp right in half. So then you have half, and you could do that in this dish too, where then the fish, instead of just a whole shrimp, it'd be in half, and then you would be addressing that vein issue if that was something that you did want to pull out of there. But I don't. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let's talk about the knife. Okay. First of all, a sharp knife is less lethal than a dull knife. A dull knife, you're going to injure yourself more than a sharp knife. Also, hold your knife like this, where you're kind of gripping on part of the shaft of the blade. And do not, oh, my mom does this all the time. It drives me crazy. Do not put your finger on top of the blade. Hold it like this. Hold it like this. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut my asparagus into like little 1/2-inch pieces, put them in a bowl. Then I'm going to go ahead and slice up the mushrooms. And we'll put this together. It'll be nice and quick. So asparagus, I've already trimmed off the ends of these. You can hand break them if you want. I've done this so much with this asparagus, I kind of know where the tough end is. So, when it'll break where it's the tough part, but I know like this part that I just broke off is still fine. So I just gone ahead and I just cut all of mine at the bottom where I knew that everything above would be okay. So, but that's a good way to do it. If you want to just hand break them yourself, go for it. So, and I just have one bundle here. It's about a pound. Again, if you want more asparagus, do it. And I'm just going ahead and cutting them through. And they're about
shrimp question. So since the shrimps in the sauce, how do you know when they're done cooking, or how long do you typically cook them for?
Oh, as soon as, visually they'll turn pink, and I know where it's in that beautiful pink sauce, but they'll tighten up. And so as soon as those, because I know that that's also going to be reheated, so down, my client is going to reheat that. I'm going to err on it's cooked, but I'm not going to like overcook it. And the only thing, if you overcook shrimp, you're not going to hurt it per se. It's just going to make it tougher. So just as soon as you see it turn pink. Now here's another trick you can do. You can make that sauce. What I've done before with the shrimp, I've also purchased already cooked shrimp before. And in fact, I've used the 50/70s, which are the smaller ones. And I've nestled actually in angel hair for clients more because they're smaller. Let's say I'm going to put in 12 or 13 of the littler shrimp that are, cooked, peeled, veined, cooked. And then I just pour the sauce that I've made uncooked because it doesn't need to cook. There isn't anything in that sauce that needs to cook before I portion it. And then my client just reheats that beautifully. If you're concerned about maybe overcooking the shrimp in the sauce, which I think you'll be fine, you can also take your raw shrimp and not worry about drying it, and then plunge it in some boiling water, and literally within 90 seconds to 2 minutes at the most, those shrimp will all be bright pink. Drain them and then shock them in some cold water. And then you can just lightly warm up your sauce or whatever, and then incorporate it too. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's the other thing that's great about these boards. I don't know if you guys can see me, but you can just bend this, like I've already cut these. Can you see me, Ashley? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then just bend it, and then boom, there it is. Okay, so I know when my niece, when I went to work with her before I decided I was going to be a personal chef, and she was one, when she showed me that technique, I was like, oh, I'm all over that. So it's the little things, right? Okay, so now oh, my water's running, sorry. Now we're going to do the mushrooms. Okay, we're going to go into the garbage bowl with the plastic, with the cellophane. Get that out of here. And then what I like to do is I get them all out. That way, if they've got any of that little growing, the stuff that they grow these in, that little brown, it's like some kind of growing stuff. And then you guys also, this I actually learned from Alton Brown, is you don't need to wash your mushrooms, okay? So this is going to go in the recycle. I think that's recycle worthy. But then what I do is I'm going to just go over here by my garbage bowl, and I'm going to cut off all the stems. The garbage bowl was very enlightening for me because it just saves those steps of reaching down to the garbage can. And I have a very convenient garbage can. The other thing that's nice about this island, you guys, that I showed last week, is I've got 2 pull-out places where you could like put a blend or a mixer or whatever. So it's just got so many workstation areas. So, okay, while I'm thinking about this, I'm going to go ahead. Luckily, I have 2 scan pans. I forgot I had the one I cooked the shrimp in was one of the original ones I got, and it was actually a little bit defective, but I still use it. It works great. But when I want to make sure that nothing sticks in a stir fry, the newer one is better. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my mushrooms. Again, holding your knife the right way, and I'm just going to go down and just slice them all and then put them in my little bowl here. Yeah, the cremini mushrooms, these are just they're basically baby portobellos. They just have a little bit richer, I don't know, flavor. But again, button mushroom, the regular white mushrooms are just fine. And what I did do yesterday, now I'm using orzo today, but you can use quinoa, you can use rice in this dish. So it's just whatever you like. Incorporate what you like. I use quinoa a lot in this dish. And also, I think in the recipe, I do say you can use like either Parmesan or feta. But to be honest, if you don't want to put either one in, just make it your own. Make it your own. Okay, so I have cooked my orzo already. This is something I did the other day. Actually froze it, and then I thawed it yesterday, but it's ready to go. Okay, so that would be good to have if you're going to make this. Make sure your orzo rice or quinoa is already cooked. Okay, so I'm going to now, because these red peppers are in an oil base, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out and put them in, but I'm gonna put the mushrooms in fairly quickly after, because these will kind of have a tendency, the sun-dried tomatoes, to burn a little bit if you don't watch it. So I'm just, maybe I'm not gonna put in the whole half a jar. So what I'm using is some of the olive oil from these marinated sun-dried tomatoes. Oh, I need to get a different spatula. It's always good to have a couple spatulas around. Okay, so we're gonna get that going, and I'm gonna go ahead and then put in my mushrooms. The asparagus is, you're gonna wanna have go in last, as far as the vegetables go. You're gonna put obviously the orzo is gonna go in very last. So what we're gonna do, you know what, this is good. I'm gonna go ahead and, I'm gonna preheat my oven, because I think I am gonna have time to do the surprise recipe.
Hey, Liz, I'm not sure if you're going to talk about this later, but can you talk about how you freeze your pasta?
I am. In fact, I will tell you while I'm cooking this. Okay, so what I do with pasta is I always cook literally the whole box, because I know either my husband and I will eat whatever I'm not using for a client. So what I do is after I cook it, I drain it and I run cold water over it. Okay. And then I put a little drizzle of olive oil, toss it all through so it's coated. So it's cooled, it has a little bit of oil. Okay? And I'll show you how I do. And then in my freezer, here I have those steaks on it. I use little sandwich bags. See, that says angel hair? I've got 5 portions of angel hair in here that literally take less than a minute for my husband and I to have a side dish. I pull it out. It's in the sandwich bag. I just put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, enough to get it out of the bag. And then I'll put it in a bowl, another 30 seconds on high. It's hot. Then you're putting on whatever you want. So it's just, and I do the same thing for quinoa. So I think what I'm going to do is on the 4th day too, we'll go over more packaging things. But yes, for doing your pastas, my quinoa, rice, I always have these on hand, because to be honest, I'm not going to, if I'm cooking all day, it's not like, oh, I'm going to set up another time now to cook for my husband and I. We kind of reap the benefits of what I'm already doing. So I kind of multitask. Then the other thing too with, back to this, mushrooms are going to exude a little bit of moisture once they have a little bit of salt on it. So I like to put just a little bit of salt. I use kosher salt. Sea salt's great. The pink Himalayan, great. And I'm going to cook this until these mushrooms start releasing their moisture. Okay. It's smelling really good. I mean, those sun-dried tomatoes have such a great smell. Okay, you're starting to kind of see them getting ready to let go. Now I'm going to add just a little sprinkle of garlic powder in here too. And you guys, I highly recommend garlic powder, not garlic salt. This way you've got more control over how much salt you put in for flavor. And the garlic powder is just dehydrated garlic that's been powdered up. So, and again, if you like garlic, put it in there. Okay, so these are starting to let go of a little of their moisture. In fact, I might even have time to show you guys how I package up that shrimp, because I got the pasta already made. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in my asparagus. And the asparagus, it's really good left very al dente. So I'm going to let this cook for a minute. While this is doing it, I need to run to the fridge because I need to get my feta cheese out. Put my frozen things back. Okay. smells really, really good. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to add the cooked orzo. And you guys, they do have, for years, there's a brand, I can't remember the brand, but I have to order it online, a whole wheat orzo. And this is probably really the only pasta that I use regular white pasta for. The other, I use the Barilla or whole grain. And I'll tell you, orzo, for some reason, it's like hard to find. The only place I have found it is at Trader Joe's. I mean, it's not in the pasta section at any of the grocery stores I've gone to, so no clue why. But this is, like I said, this is beautiful with quinoa as well. So I don't know if you guys can really see this. Can you see that okay, Ashley?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful side dish, but I'm telling you, this, like I said, this is going to be a main course with some sauteed shrimp that I'll portion out X number of shrimp with some of this dish here, but this is just lovely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat off. You can see how fast this was, and I'm going to add feta cheese for her. So got my little island a little closer to myself than normal so you guys can see. And I'm just going to put in, I don't know, maybe a third of a cup of feta. And just stir that around and it'll kind of get creamied up. Like I said, Parmesan is good, none is good. But this just makes a lovely, lovely side dish and main course. You guys can see how fast that is. I mean, look, we've just been going a half an hour. Both dishes are done. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to show you this next recipe. And then while it's cooking, I can portion up that shrimp dish into the pasta and show you how I package it up. How does that sound? Okay. Delicious. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get another cooling rack and place it over here, get it out of the way. Okay. Now the next dish, you guys, the surprise, is called sweet orange salmon. But today I'm making it extra spicy because the client I'm making it for loves spicy food. So I made a rub. Let me get the salmon ready or out. Okay. So here's what the rub is some brown sugar, some chili powder, a little bit of salt, and then either the rind from an orange that you zest your orange all the way around, chop it up fine, fresh orange, which I did. And then luckily, Menzies has orange peel dehydrated. So this works brilliantly. Okay. So I just I put like a tablespoon or so, put some water in, and then it just, it doesn't take long, reconstitutes. And then I'm going to add that into, get another spoon here, into this mixture. And the thing is with this, yes, it is some sugar. You can make your rub as thin or as thick as you want. This particular client of mine, he likes it sort of thick. I mean, when I say thick, it's going to be on a crust. It's just not going to be like a rub. But you could definitely do it where it's just a light rub and it's still going to impart a lot of flavor. So I'm just going to mix this in. The other thing I add to his, if you like spicy, is I added crushed red pepper flakes. Okay. The chili powder and the brown sugar together is a really nice mix. You can also, if you like it with more of a cumin flavor or coriander, like I said, use it as your imagination. But there is something about this heat with the sweet and with that little bit of orange flavor. This is one of the most requested dishes that I have with my clients that love salmon. And it's especially, I think, it's appealing because of the rub for someone that isn't so sure if they like fish that much, that this really works great. Okay, so now I'll show you how I'm going to do this. I'm so glad that I could do this, and then I'll actually post the recipe. So I've already portioned his salmon, okay? So it's all ready to go. I'm gonna put it on the blue, the fish board, which is for fish. I just figured this out not too long ago, as I line them all up kind of close to each other. And I make 5 servings for him. His service is 5 servings of each thing. So that's what I'm doing for him. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go along here. I got my oven preheated to 400, okay? And I'm just gonna go and just smash this all down on top. This is so good. Everybody just loves this. I mean, it's just, and like I said, obviously make it as spicy as you want with as little or as much brown sugar as you want. But this really is a fun dish. Okay. And again, the measurements, this one especially, it's a little bit definitely by gosh or by golly, but it's, like I said, make as much or as thick as you want. And his is thick, but it's not like super thick. But more than just like a little dusting. Okay. So I used to have this where I would try and do each individual one. And then I thought, well, this is a lot more efficient. And then I'll show you. Then I just take my spatula. Okay. Done. Another good thing to have on hand, you guys, of course, foil always works, but I buy these parchment paper sheets. So, and even though nothing's going to stick on the parchment paper, I'm going to use a little EVOO on here, little squirts. Then I'm going to take my spatula and I'm just going to go ahead, put this down. Hey, look at how slick that works. Okay. Okay, these will take 9 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes in the oven. I kind of go by, they usually say 10 minutes for an inch of thickness. These aren't totally an inch, they're a little bit less than that. But, and I just know my oven too, that it's going to be just fine. Okay, it's up to 400, so here they go. I'm going to set the timer for 9. Okay. All righty. We're doing great. Okay, I'm so excited. All right, now what I'm going to do is let me just clean up my little work area. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the pasta out that I've cooked. And I'm going to portion, and I'll show you guys how I portion this up to freeze for my client that's getting that beautiful shrimp dish. Okay. So let's see, I put the container. Oh yeah, here's the containers. Okay, so I get these containers. When I first started, you couldn't get these on Amazon. I'd order them from a store called the Restaurant Store. There's all kinds of containers. So these are, you know, and I know everybody has different feelings about microwave plastic and all of that. Those that you want to freeze and you don't want to freeze in glass, they make great glass containers too. You can freeze in something like this, pop it out and warm it in glass if you don't want to warm in this. I'll be honest, I know all of my clients, they're eating right out of here. I just know that they are. They're not plating it up. They're eating out of here. So, but if you want to put it into glass, I just tell them, you can pop it out, put it in a Pyrex. It's about the same size, let it thaw, warm it up in the microwave that way. Or I also have containers for my clients that want to heat in the oven. And then I use a foil container, same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get going so you guys can see this. So I line these up. I've got my angel hair already cooked. So I'll get it out of the fridge. Okay, so this was cooled, cooked, cooled, a little bit of olive oil, and now I mean, you can see it just beautifully comes up. It's just ready to go. And so like, I've been doing this so long, I know basically how much is a portion. I mean, I figured, and I have some that I actually measure if they're on Weight Watchers or doing different things. This particular client, it's not as critical, but we still portion control. So I'm just going ahead and portioning in here. And now the side dish I'm going to put that salmon on, you guys, is long grain brown rice, tossed with peas in it. And it's lovely. Now, I mentioned this to Wendy, if any of you guys want this, I've got, brown rice can be an issue to cook sometimes. I use the long grain brown, and I have not only a perfect recipe if you want to do it in your Instant Pot, if you're an Instant Pot owner, but I also have a perfect baked brown rice recipe. I think rice makers, it's, I think, kind of difficult for it to turn out. I know the rice maker that I have that isn't a Fuzzy Logic. It's just a basic on-off one, but I still do like it because I make my quinoa in it sometimes. But if you guys would like those recipes, I'm happy to share those and have Wendy give those to you guys. So you might see if that's something that everyone would like, Ashley.
Yes, that sounds great. Okay,
great. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and get my shrimp. It's cooled down. So now what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give it a stir because, it's cool. So it has like a little cooling action. Is then I use, first of all, what I do is I'm going to go in this pasta. I don't know if you can see me. I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to go like that and make like a little canyon. I'm going to make like a little a place where I can nest those 10 shrimp. And then I'm going to take a, get over there. I'm going to take a serrated, not serrated. A spoon like this with holes in it. And then I'm going to portion all of the shrimp first, then go back over and add my sauce. So that way I know I'm getting my 10 each. 6, 9, 10. Oh yeah, we're still doing good. 6. Any more questions? You guys getting hungry? More?
There is a question. How much olive oil do you put in your pasta?
I probably, when I do the whole box, I think over the whole thing, maybe, I don't know, 2 tablespoons at the most for the whole batch, which when I measure mine out, when I cook that box of Barilla, it says it's 8 servings, I get 12 out of it. So maybe 2 tablespoons. Just enough that it, and plus 2 that you've rinsed it, it's just going to coat it really nicely. And okay, 2 more, and then we'll portion. I'll show you how I package this. I actually just made this last night for my mom and stepdad. We had dinner over there last night, and this is one of her favorites. Okay, so I'm going to show you. You guys are going to see that once I get these all portioned, really just how much sauce there still is in here. I mean, and you figure, it's 1 block of Nutrichel cheese, which is 8 servings at 70 calories a serving. This really is, I think, for as decadent as this tastes, it's really a waste-friendly dish. Okay. So you guys can see, I'm gonna have plenty of sauce here to just go ahead and portion over the shrimp that already has a nice coating, but I'm gonna, definitely put the rest on. But if there were more shrimp in here, I probably could have easily gotten 8 servings out of that one recipe of the sauce. Okay. There you go. Okay. Get this out of the way. Now, I like to add, although one of my clients goes, oh, garnishing is overrated. I like to add a little bit of green on top. And instead of adding the the dried basil, I'm going to add just a little bit of parsley flakes. And it's funny, I really actually learned this from another professional chef that was doing a demo at a big conference I was at. And he said, using chopped fresh or dried, if you're going to freeze something, it's the same. So don't think that it's going to be better for you to chop the fresh, to put it on to freeze it. That's going to be better for my client. The dehydrated is fine. And it's mostly for the, so you can see. So now this is how this looks. They see that, Ashley?
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, and so isn't that beautiful? So what I'm going to do is, so we don't run into tight time, I'm going to show you with this first one. So another plug for Costco, sorry, but I'm telling you, this plastic wrap is a lifesaver, because you know what it is, pulling the plastic wrap and then that serrated edge, and you get cut and then it sticks to itself. This, you have the serrated edge, but it comes with this slider that's inside the tube when you purchase it, and you push it down on top of it, and then you just pull, slide across, go. Okay, guess what that is? Oh my goodness, that looks delicious. Okay, I'm gonna turn the oven off. Cancel. Okay, I'm just gonna pull this out of the oven, you guys, so that you can see. I can't believe we got some things today. Okay, I'm gonna drop it. There's the salmon. And I will portion that the same way I'm doing this shrimp. I will go over, actually this is good, because if you guys are seeing some of this, the portioning, we don't have to take a whole hour on it on the 4th day. We can maybe do another cook. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull over, because the thing with freezing food, guys, air is the enemy. And so this is going to go right down on top of this food. Here, I'll show you. So I just go around, I tucked it down. And now my client, obviously, when they thaw this, they're pulling the plastic wrap off, but there's no air on that food. And so then when I put this lid, which has a huge airspace between, that food is protected. And obviously it must be working, or I don't think it could be in business 18 years later. So this works beautifully. Now in the past, then what I'll do is I'll label this. For years, I used 2x4 labels. I printed them off. They look so nice. Well, over the course of 18 years, they keep changing the adhesive on the back of those doggone labels, that then what would happen is that once it was in the freezer, the adhesive wouldn't stick, and then the labels are all over the place. So I just write what it is on top with a black marker. So that's how that goes. So I'm going to just, while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and why don't we see if we have any other questions, Ashley, if there's people want to pick my brain about anything while I kind of go through this. And was this too fast? Was everything okay?
Yeah, Brandy had a question. She said, if you freeze your pasta and then bring it out to thaw for portioning, can you refreeze the pasta?
Yep. Yes, you can. Like that's what I just did with that orzo that I cooked yesterday. I cooked the orzo a couple days ago, and I thought, oh, perfect. I made enough extra that I could use for that dish. I froze it. I put it in a container like this, put plastic over the top, put the lid on, labeled it, and then I took it out last night, put it in the fridge, let it thaw, and then that's what I used in the dish, and then that'll get frozen for my client. Yep. Okay. All right. Anything else? Oh, got my... Are you guys going to try some of these? Everyone's pretty quiet.
Yes, we were talking about having an in-person class after when we're able to, but yeah, I'm gonna try that salmon. I have some salmon right now.
Yes, I think you'd like it, right? And the thing is, if you don't have the orange, just even trying that where you have that little bit of sweet with something spicy, Ashley, would be great. The orange does add kind of a really nice touch for sure. Yeah, I can't really see the comments if people are asking me stuff. Okay, so you can see how slick this is. And then, then when we're all finished, then I'll portion the salmon on top of the brown rice with beef. So it sounds like everyone could use that baked brown rice and maybe the instant pot brown rice recipe. Because I can pass those on too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Well, I'm glad I was able to do 3 things. That's good. And I think next week, because there was a request for ground beef, I'm going to do meatballs. And then I'm going to do another dish that I use ground turkey for, but you can use ground beef for. And it's also, someone wanted like lunch ideas, and this makes beautiful wraps in those. I use those Olay Extreme Wellness wraps that are delicious. So I think that those will be 2 things. And I'll see if I can't squeeze in a third. I might be able to do, I know Wendy loves this pecan crunch salmon that I make. It's another one that's just a super easy one, and it'll be demoing the little chef and chop tool. So maybe I'll do that too.
All right. So does anyone else have any questions? All right. Yeah, Michelle said I'm going to try them this week. Brandy said we're going to try them all. We'll have to send you some pictures.
Great, I'd love it. That's great.
All right. Well, I'll send this recording